Professional Conduct, the Code of Ethics for Minnesota Teachers. The Code of Ethics for Minnesota Educators is an important but not particularly enjoyable presentation. We'll get into some topics that seem like common sense, and yet, in order to ensure that all teachers understand the ethical requirements of the position, they need to be written out in strong legal language. Understand that these expectations set by the Minnesota legislature are not the only expectations required of teachers. You'll also have district level and possibly union level expectations that you should be alert to. Lastly, this presentation should not be taken as legal advice. I doubt that, but my professor said it was okay, will hold up in a court of law. So please continue to think for yourself, speak with your instructor, and do further research into these topics if something doesn't seem correct to you. The first expectation of professional conduct is that teachers should be non-discriminatory. Regardless of your personal opinions on issues of race, color, creed, national origin, marital status, disability, public assistance status, age, sexual orientation, or religion, you will treat students as learners and provide professional educational service without discrimination. You are responsible for student safety, which means that you'll do your best to protect students from harm. You'll provide a safe environment both physically and emotionally in your classroom and contribute to the safe environment in your school. This includes following mandated reporting laws within 24 hours of a concern. Better yet, report as soon as you are able. It's wise to be in contact with your school support systems such as administration and social work, and when you're making a report to Child Protective Services. Professional educators are expected to maintain appropriate boundaries with their students and their families. You should be friendly, but maintain the status as a professional and not a friend. The law states that you are not a friend. Your relationships with students should not be overly personal. We have relationships with students because of learning and in order to help them grow. Maintain an open door policy, which means that you do not meet with students privately, for your own protection and for theirs. When students need supports beyond your role as a teacher, maintain a professional boundary and refer them to the resources they need. These can be hard lines for compassionate educators who want to make a difference for students in need. Remember that keeping these boundaries will assure you of many years of helping students. Districts are required to provide you with yearly harassment trainings. Be sure to follow those and participate as required. Harassment policies apply to all district employees, students, volunteers, and school board members. As a professional educator, you should never be harassing others. This requirement is true of pretty much any job you might hold. The bottom line for a teacher is that you are not to share student information with anyone except the legal guardians. You can't share information with grandma just because she volunteers at the school, and you don't get to tell the mom's boyfriend about a disciplinary situation without permission from the guardian. Data privacy is a big deal and can get teachers into trouble. Be alert to who the guardians are and only share information with them. Of course, once the school has a release of information for the step parent, the youth pastor, or the therapist, you can share as needed. Stay up to date on the systems in place in your school district for sharing information. A few unique situations are that you shouldn't share court-ordered information without going through your school office. They know the legal requirements and they can support you. Also, remember to follow the school guidelines for photo releases. Again, your office staff may be really helpful with this. With social media being a great way to communicate positive stories about your school, be certain that you are protecting students and keeping their images private if necessary. The law states that corporal punishment is illegal in Minnesota. Isn't it crazy that it's still legal in some states? Be aware that reasonable force is allowed, but in cases of extreme safety, you will want to be well versed in the requirements related to behavior and discipline in your school district. Minnesota statute requires that you be made aware if a student with a violent history is being placed in your classroom. However, the definitions of violent can be different from district to district, so be sure to inform yourself about the policies where you work. In the event that you go hands-on with a student for any reason, there could be an investigation from the Minnesota Department of Education. They will report their findings to the Board of Teaching, and that documentation will remain in your file regardless of the final outcome. You do have the right to legal representation or union support during this process. My advice to you is to avoid going hands-on unless it is a significant safety risk for the student, their classmates, or for you. Okay, finally we get to talk about some lighter topics. It's important that you don't use your position of authority for private advantage. Be alert to the conflict of interest guidelines provided by your union or district. Typically, if a family comes to you requesting tutoring, you can follow up. But be aware that selling tutoring during parent-teacher conferences just after you shared some poor test scores might be seen as a challenge to this boundary. It's a gray area of the regulations, and you'll want to talk about this with your principal should you have a side business that connects to your teaching role. What about paraprofessionals, volunteers, and parents? As the teacher, we are not allowed to delegate our authority to other non-licensed personnel. So, certainly in the heat of an emergency, there might be some leeway here. But as a typical practice, do not leave your class with another adult to supervise. They are your responsibility. Sometimes schools get into bad habits in this area and rely heavily on their paraprofessional staff for supervision of students. Be aware that the Code of Ethics states very directly that this should not be done. You have been licensed and gone through a significant amount of training to gain the role of a teacher and should not give that authority away. The next statement explains that you should be accurate and forthcoming in following your district curriculum. In the event that you become aware of inaccurate or distorted information, you should address the issue with curriculum specialists and your administration. As a highly qualified teacher, you should not falsify or misrepresent your credentials or the credentials of others. This includes formal misrepresentation, but also the lesser errors of gossiping or exaggerating. Be protective of our profession and uphold high standards regarding our qualifications. I like to tease that this next one, is the be nice clause. Truly, it comes down to don't lie, gossip, or cheat, just be nice. This includes your time with students, with colleagues, and when you're on your lunchtime or functioning as a coach. Be nice during prep time and after hours at the football game, too. Just be nice. As part of your licensing process, you'll be eligible only for the subjects designated. Do not teach outside of your license and do not allow your district to use you in that manner without proper application for a variance. Again, show respect for our profession and follow the licensing rules. You are responsible for maintaining your teaching license. When your license is up for renewal, it will expire on June 30th of that year. Although your school district will assist you in updating your license through their continuing education committee, you are ultimately responsible for renewing your license. You can be fired for not doing your job. Shocking, right? Sadly, we need to have this listed in our Code of Ethics. If you fail to do your job, if you're grossly ineffective, or if you participate in conduct unbecoming of a teacher, it's hopeful that you will be terminated from your position. Unbecoming conduct can include behaving in a discriminatory way, DWI or DUI convictions, embezzlement, sexual misconduct, pornography, and illegal gambling. Avoid these behaviors as a human and definitely as a professional educator. Insubordination is another way that educators are removed from their positions. In 28 years of teaching, I have seen insubordination, but I have not seen anyone removed for it. Be aware that continually refusing to follow the directives of your administration could cause you to be terminated. Here is where we get into some murky territory. Teachers can be terminated for immorality. When your personal behavior is in contrast with community standards or the expectations of a public role model, you could be terminated. Who you are matters when you're a teacher, so be sure that how you present yourself on and off the job is something that you can be proud of. You can be terminated if you're involved in child sexual abuse or other types of felonies. You are entitled to a hearing, and it's possible that you will not only be terminated, but that your license may also be revoked. In the case of child sexual abuse, You will lose your license. Be aware that there are regulations related to resigning from your teaching position. If you wish to end your contract with a school district, whether to teach elsewhere or to leave education, there are deadlines and dates to be followed. Typically, your union representative or administration will be able to support you with these situations. Something that many new teachers are not aware of is the probationary system that continues until you're tenured. Probationary teachers have no seniority and are all treated the same. If an administrator prefers one probationary teacher over another, they may rehire them and not renew another at the end of their contract without explanation. Union support is available to help you understand how the probationary term and system works.